Today I'm going to make an apple pie filling, but I'm using apples that go brown very quickly. So I'm going to show you how I disguise that, and by the end of it, you won't be able to tell. And oh my, it's delicious, trust me. Cheers. The first thing I do is I put the apples into the sink and give them a bit of a wash. I'm going to peel them and core them anyway and not actually use the peels, but I like to just wash them and make sure they're all clean before I go on to the rest of my recipe. Okay, so the next step is to simply grab the apples and to peel and core them. So I chuck them on here like this, push it forward like this, and start turning. And before you know it, the machine does the whole process for me. There you go. So I'm just going to put the whole apple in the water, remove the core, and the cores and the peels are going to go into a container here for the worm farm and the chickens. And it's just a matter of doing this over and over until all the apples are done. Some of the apples have a little bit of skin left on them, on the top and the bottom. But that's no big deal. I'll just either cut that off and put that aside for the chickens or the worms. I add lemon juice to the water. Now that should stop the apples from going brown. But unfortunately for me, these particular apples are very resistant to the lemon juice. Now these apples are a bit of a mystery. The apple tree that I bought was labelled as a Granny Smith, but these are clearly not Granny Smith apples. So I don't know exactly what they are. They tend to brown very quickly. So they're definitely an apple that we either eat straight away or we use them in cooking. So there we have it. That's the apples. They're peeled, cored and sliced, ready for the recipe. All I need to do is slice them down the middle and they'll become two halves. At the moment, they're a spiral. And you can see just here, that's all the scraps ready for the chooks and the worm farm. So not much waste at all. Everything pretty much gets used, which is fantastic. First of all, I'll get my butter into the pan and get that melting. Get it all in there. Just going to put in my white sugar, my brown sugar, my cinnamon. Okay, so I'm just heating this up and I'm trying to bring the sugar up to temperature just so it breaks down and goes very watery with that butter. So you can see already that this is going to be a darker mix, a darker filling, which is going to suit the apples that have gone brown on me. All right, I'm just going to squeeze in a bit of lemon juice. Oh, that smells good. All right, so now I'm going to turn down my temperature by half. And I'm just going to add some of this corn flour mix. Just give it a stir, just to get it all mixed again. Okay, stir it quickly. Whatever you do, do not get your fingers or any parts of your skin touching this. It is red hot. It will burn. All right, so I think I'm going to use the whole lot. So that was the 2 tablespoons of the corn flour, or cornstarch as people say. Now don't worry if it's looking too thin, because it's actually going to thicken up when it cools down. So I'm just going to let that simmer. Just going to add the salt. I'm actually going to use all of it in this case. Give that a stir. So I'm just cutting the apples in half. As you can see, they were whole. Now I'll cut them into halves. Well, I say whole, but they were whole spirals from the machine. And I'm actually going to turn this off. We'll turn it back on in a minute. I just want to control that heat. So now, off to the side of camera, I'm just cutting the apples this recipe, because of the brown sugar and the little bit of cinnamon in there, it does brown up and it does help with the color of the apple. See, you can get away with it when they're sliced like this. Okay, so I'm just turning on the flame again. And we'll get that syrup back up to temperature. And give these apples a bit of a coating. I wasn't happy with the amount of liquid and the thickness of the liquid in here. So I've just added another tablespoon of the cornstarch or corn flour. And that would have been with about 50 mils of water. And then just as these apples start to gently cook a little, they're going to leach out a little bit of liquid as well. So with our apple pies, and also if we would have this on top of ice cream, we really like to see slices of apple like this and just a bit of a thick glaze around it. We don't want a lot of liquid in there. So you can see now that by using the brown sugar and the cinnamon, the apples don't actually look too bad. You wouldn't know that they were brown to begin with. What I'm doing here is I'm just cooking the apples down a little bit, not all the way, because I want them to keep their shape when they're baked in a pie. And I'm also making sure that the caramel is not sticking to the pan and burning. All right, so what I'm going to do now is turn off the heat. Just give it one last stir so it doesn't stick on the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to let the apples sit because they're still a little crispy, which is great. So as they cool down, they're still cooking a little. So by the time they get down to room temperature, the apples will be cooked just enough to go into an apple pie. And then if we do have them on ice cream with the dessert, they've still got a nice bit of texture to them and that really nice sticky syrup. Don't know if you can see that on the spoon. I'll use my finger. Excuse my fingers. Look at that. Okay, so the all-important taste test. Oh, let's go through it some apple first. Oh, wow. Check it out. Not too sweet. That lemon comes through. The apple has actually penetrated the sugar syrup. Oh, it's so good to be me right now. Oh, man. My verdict on this one? Daz approves. Just like the movie, Gone in 60 Seconds. Har, har, har. So the plan now is I'm just going to let this cool down to a room temperature. And then I'm going to pop this whole thing into the fridge. And then tomorrow, it's apple pie day. We'll be making apple pies. If you did like this video, I'd appreciate it if you showed YouTube how much by just clicking that like button down below. And by all means, please comment down below. So if you have any questions, just pop the questions down below and I will answer it as best as I can and as soon as I can. Thanks very much. I'll see you next time and bye for now.